Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be today. We have two amazing guests here today. We've got Paolo and Conrado Leslie joining us. Thank you so much, Paolo and Conrado, for coming on the show today. It's lovely to have you here. We should probably say this is Carly's first meeting of the Leslies, so you're hearing their story
Absolutely.
afresh.
I'm really excited to hear your story.
Brilliant. And Nicolas, for any of you that don't know me, is one of my personal superheroes. He really is a very special person in my heart. He's one of the greatest teachers and someone that I'm really grateful to have met, as he's inspired many amazing connections in my everyday life. I think it's fair to say that he's a very influential person in all our lives. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. One of the things that Nicolas really taught me, and one thing that he sort of would say to me regularly, is love has an ability to find a way. And when you see and hear his story, you will realise how significant that is, because as viewers, you perhaps don't know or are not aware that Nicolas is in spirit. I'm going to pass you over to the Leslies. I'm going to let Conrado start with an introduction about Nicolas, so he can tell you the reason that we're here today, and he can sort of share with you the story about Nicolas. Nicolas, for me, really doesn't want to be defined by the way that he died. He wants to be defined by the way that he lived. But sadly, he was a victim of the 14th of July 2012 Bastille Day terrorist attack in Nice, France.
I can tell you that this life with Nicolas was like a fairy tale. He was like the perfect person to come into our life and enlighten us. He was a very happy baby, and I just couldn't wait for him to grow up bigger so he could do the things that I like to do, which I used to call him mini-me. He started kite surfing at 9 years old and scuba diving at 10. And he was always a perfectionist. So he always wanted to take things to the next level. So he started kiting. He wouldn't quit until he learned all the new tricks. And we're very competitive. We would compete, and things, almost like two brothers, and who could do it better. But he was like, he would set his goals and make it happen. He went from kite surfing at 9 to becoming an international kite surfing organization instructor by the time he was 18. He started scuba diving at 9. I think at 10, he got his PADI certification. He went on to do cave dives, night dives, shark dives. Eventually became an advanced diver. He was very athletic. He was like 6'3", about 190 pounds. Yet he had this intellectual thing about him. He was very, very deep. And I spent most of my time, it's like having fun with him. While Paola really was like the heart of the house, taking care. She was a stay-at-home mom. So, she would like cook for him, bring him hot lunch in school.
20 years was a beautiful 20 years that a gift from us, for us that we spent with Nicolas. And I still remember one thing that really is stick on my mind before he left, like 1 week before he left to go in Nice. He was going up to the stair of our house, and we have all these beautiful pictures of all our adventures since he was little, all the way when he grew up. And he looked at the picture, and then he was kind of with a serious face. He said, he turned around and he told me, "Mom, we grew up together, didn't we?" And I was just like, yes. I mean, I felt my heart it touched my heart, because it felt like we were like a team, it was our universe, Nick, and it's still our universe right now. Even if he's on the other side, it's still guiding us, and it's still, we are Team Nick. We were Team Nick when it was here on Earth, and we still Team
We
Nick.
helped him. I was his, I was like his fun coach, and Paola was like the love coach. But he was so deep, in fact. I remember one time we were out surfing, having a great time, and I don't know what happened, but just joking around, I called him the R word. And then he stopped laughing, and all of a sudden he looked at me really serious. He goes, "Dad, that's very offensive. You know what that really means? Like, they don't have a choice. People have cognitive disabilities." And then he got into people with physical disabilities. Could you imagine how life could be? And he kept on asking, why? Why is that fair for somebody to be born like that and be in a wheelchair and have to struggle while other people don't? So he was very deep and very, like I said, he became
very compassionate.
Yeah, compassionate. and intellect, because, after he played, football, swimming team, then in high school, he joined the lacrosse team. And then his last year of high school, he quit the team to get into speech and debate. And I was like shocked, saying, Nick, no, you can't do that, because, college applications, they want to see continuity and stuff. He goes, no, Dad, I have a passion for this. And after that, it was terrible, because I couldn't win one argument with him, because he didn't have the skills,
Can I just ask there then, as a family, what were your beliefs before Nick passed?
Well, I went to a Jesuit high school, in fact, and Nicholas was baptized and he had his communion. Yet we really didn't practice that much. I'm an engineer, and I kind of gave up my search for like the meaning of life or religion soon after I entered the workforce. I realized that, wow, I really have to get my act together and focus on what we're here right now. And I would discuss it with Nicholas. I say, Nick, we live in this rock that goes around the sun, and some people have 10 turns, other people have 120 turns, but you got to do what you got with the best that you have when you have it. So it was like a very what's here now attitude about life, and was very little spirituality at all. We're passionate. We helped a lot of people before, but no religion, no organized religion.
Yeah, let's say that we didn't follow any organized religion, and even Nicolas was I baptized him and the first communion, because I grew up like this. But Nicolas, he went to the Sunday church school, and he really never. He said, it doesn't resonate with me, Mom.
Yeah, he said it didn't resonate. And in fact, one day he came to me and he goes, Dad, this is like in junior high. So he must have been like 12, maybe 13.
Yeah.
And he's like, Dad, I want to become a Buddhist. And I'm like, what? You can't become a Buddhist. We're a family of Catholics. You have to be a Catholic. You'll kill your grandmas, if you say you're a Buddhist. So
he started, they were studying like the Buddhist philosophy
in school.
And he said that much resonated for him, that philosophy, than, the Catholic religion, the Buddhist philosophy. And and he started to meditate after, and later on, when he was on high school, on the last few years of his life, he started to meditate, and that's what he was always saying about religion. In fact, about religion, Nicolas was always saying that religion, organized religions, brings at the end, that can be the roots for wars, and so that's a very interesting. They felt this
at a young age too.
Yeah, so he was always concerned that religion, sort of conflicting religions, could end up creating volatile situations that could lead to war or warfare or disputes. And he was very much more about communities working together, pulling together and coming together. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And that sort of led him on then to go into kind of politics and kind of other situations as well, didn't it? He wanted to make
a little bit, through once he got into the speech and debate team, he started, getting more, with social events and social, just current events and some politics. I know he was a big fan of President Obama, which I have a really funny story. I mean, like an amazing story. Validated for us. And I don't know if you want me to discuss that stuff.
Tell us a little bit about, if you're comfortable to do so, the awful, horrific day that you find out that your son has transitioned in a terrorist attack, because I think it's important for people listening to really understand how it impacts you, but also how little knowledge that you have and where you have to get that knowledge, so that people understand what you really go through. And you have been through so much. You're sitting here smiling, full of joy today, but it's fair to say you've also seen the other side of the situation and been through really challenging dark spaces as well. So we're always sort of saying, aren't we, when we're talking together, it's really about the journey from darkness into light, because you really went to the worst place ever, which was losing a child in a very sort of kind and civilized way. So tell us a little bit about the situation that led you.
What they say, they say that, we're, spiritual beings, here to live this experience. And if that's the case, we got to experience the highest of highs, with life with Nick, and then just the darkest of the darkness. We found out I was upstairs working, and I was in fact setting up a goal fund for a fellow kite surfer that drowned. It was kind of, weird. And I said, hey, we got to do something to help his family. And then all of a sudden I had a news break that there was a terrorist attack in Nice. And I wasn't really concerned. I said, Nice is a big city. What are the chances, that my son would be involved in this thing? But I told Paola, and we started calling him, and he wouldn't answer. And we just kept on calling him. And it went on, almost like 24 hours trying to reach him. And we could not find him until finally we were talking to his friends in the ground, his friends at Berkeley. He went to UC Berkeley, and his friends had located his phone. And they said, no, his phone is in Nice, but it's not on for some reason. Maybe the battery's dead. People mobilized looking for him.
You were obviously from America at the time. You were living in America. What was the purpose that Nicolas was in France?
Yeah, well, he was attending a special program from the University of California, Berkeley, where they select certain students to participate in this project called European Innovative Academy, where they take business majors, engineers, marketing people, and they put them in a group and from different schools from all over the world. And then they get to work together, pitch an idea to Google and to develop an app. And if they won, they get funded. And Nicolas was working with a group and they were trying to develop a real-time gauge of lactic acid for athletes. And they're saying, well, just like, athletic athletes have so much go, and they think they could, do the next play. But if the coach knows the lactic acid level on the person's muscles, he'll say, you know what, you're done. You might have the heart, but your body says no. And then he'll be able to do a substitution because that person is physically, medically exhausted. So he was there participating in that project. He had been there like 2 weeks. He just met a bunch of great friends that they supported us so much when we found out. But after, not finding him, we decided to go out there and look for him. So we went to France. And at the same time, it was interesting in that there was somebody else that was in the group with Berkeley that was pretty well off, and their parents had hired this international company to look that rescues hostages. So they were out there in the ground and said, well, look, we found the daughter. She's okay. But we're here and we're mobilized. We're going to look for Nick. So they're keeping us abreast of the whole situation. They kept on saying, no. Guess what? We determined Nicolas is okay. He's not in the hospital. He's not one of the people there in the morgue. And I could guarantee you that. And at the same time, his friend who was there, because he was walking with a group of friends, he said, no, I saw Nicolas run the other way. I saw him. He's okay. Mr. Leslie, trust me, he's okay. So when we went to France, we thought that I even brought some extra clothes for him. I thought he might be in a hospital, and there was so much chaos when it happened that the hospitals were not accepting people, visitors, or anything. Just chaotic scene. And then we were in the airplane, and that's when we heard the news, which was just so devastating for us.
We were almost landing in France.
Paris.
And I called the Italian consulate because Nicolas was double citizenship because I'm from Italy. And that's when they gave me the news.
And it was terrible news because the way they said it.
It's because the American consulate was waiting for us to get there. They all knew it, but they didn't want to tell us until, we were on the ground. FBI was coming to pick up us. And by the Italian consul, when I called, they told us, and that was the phone call.
In the worst way ever, he said, I'm sorry, your son didn't make it. And I was like, what does that mean, didn't make it? Because, when he played sports and stuff, if he didn't make it into the A team, it was a big thing. That's what he didn't make it. So it was really hard. But I remember we just let out a scream in the airplane and right away, I remember like the stewardesses and they just came to assist us and to walk with us and take us to our next connection flight. And when we landed in Nice, that's when we had the U.S. side, they had a little bit more sensitivity training, and they were there already, and they had a room in the airport with family members waiting for us on the news.
They knew you were on the flight, Conrado.
They wanted us to make it to Nice. So
Yeah.
we were like, I don't know how we made it through those days. They were just like, just hell.
It must have felt so
The only thing I could tell you is that I used to be a fan of Bob Marley's, a song that I used to like that says, "Time will tell. You think you're in heaven, but you're really in hell." And I thought, God, if somebody really wanted to punish us or do something bad to us, like if the universe was against us, they would do that. They'd give us a perfect life just so they could take it away.
Was that your initial thought as well, that you were almost being punished for something?
No. It was just all about Nick at first. It was like, it's just like your whole world's like just collapses, is like to describe the words for it.
Did it feel real, Conrado?
It just felt strange, I guess,
It's just very hard to go back on that, on that time, because it was just the darkest, I even don't remember, how.
We just had so much help from his friends that were there. They helped. They packed his dormitory. And don't worry, Mr. Leslie, we got everything. It's all his belongings. They helped us pack. And then we had this assigned somebody to us, so they were there at the airport, and they walked us through the police reports, through everything, just hand in hand. They took care of all the details of getting Nicolas back to the United States. And even when we arrived, they were there waiting for us in San Diego. They escorted us home. They asked us if before we got there, they said, "Hey, do you want us to get food for your house?" Once we were there, they were going out doing shopping for us, picking up prescriptions. It was darkest night of the soul. It's really hard to explain. And then the worst, obviously, is just seeing Paola, the way she was suffering. I really thought that we weren't going to make it. I thought for sure that I was going to wind up an alcoholic, living by myself in a condo, 1-bedroom joint, and dying alone. And I thought for sure Paola was going to be committed. And the worst thing about it is that I could see it like a slow motion train wreck, yet there was nothing. I was paralyzed. There was nothing I could do with it. I knew I was in a sunken ship, yet I didn't have any motivation to put on a life jacket. I was frozen. I guess we were both frozen. We didn't know what to do. And it killed me. I developed that whole feeling that it's like, what did we do wrong? How could this happen? And then all of a sudden I just started thinking, well, just because we lived a fairy tale life and we lived in paradise in this very beautiful place in San Diego. It's a community called Del Mar, which is like right next to the beach. It's like an island, so millions of miles away from terrible things that you hear in the news. I thought, why did this happen? And then later I started questioning myself. I thought, well, was I just pretentious to think that just because I lived a fairy tale life that we were going to live happily ever after? Or was I just naive? And so my head was going in all these directions. And in the meantime, I think I had my own business since 9. It was an oceanographic and environmental company. And I just let it go. It was always like my second child. And I just wasn't able to attend to my clients. I wasn't able to do anything. And even though I had a good relationship with them, I remember I told all my clients, I said, "I'm sorry, I'm damaged goods. I can't help you." Basically, I ended my company. It was like, no client ever wants to hear that,
These are the things that people don't see, Conrado. So, you see on the news, the event happens, but you don't see the repercussions and how it affects the individuals going forward. You had no motivation to work anymore. You felt that your concentration was affected. You maybe lost a bit of confidence as well, because you're questioning life on the deepest levels as you're analysing what's happened to you. It completely changes, and that must affect relationships around you, the people around you, how you relate to them, and kind of experiences. Paola, you also went through the same thing and found it really challenging, but you said to me that amazing people just came out of the woodwork, complete strangers, like the lady that sat with Nicolas, that just inspired you to keep going on, and they were the connections that kept you alive in these kind of challenging moments. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. We had we were in this dark place, but we were surrounded from love, from all our friends. There was so much love pouring on us, and and they really kept us floating alive. We were being taken care from all our friends, and then little by little we start to notice like all these things that were happening, and it was almost like Nicolas. It was really kind of to try to communicate it with us from the other side, to telling us, hey, I'm still alive, and I felt it deep inside since the first day it happened. I mean, I was totally shattered in mind. I was broken, but I felt that Nicolas, it was still existing in another dimension, that it's energy. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt his presence.
That he wasn't gone.
That he was not gone. I felt his presence with him right away since first day. I just didn't understand. I just couldn't really, I didn't know anything about afterlife. We never really were going deep in this topic in our family. So, and then things start to happen, like signs, synchronicity.
Yeah, just like from the beginning, as soon as we arrived back, his high school called and they said they wanted to do a scholarship for Nicolas at Torrey Pines High School. And they said they wanted some photos of Nicolas wearing Falcon colors, which was like the mascot, like the sports, I guess the mascot for the school. And I went upstairs and I had like thousands of photographs, and I was like going through all these old photographs from him in high school. And I was just tearing up because it was like so painful to see, I just felt that every picture I would see is like bringing up a memory and hurting me. And then I remember I was explaining to Paola, I felt like I was in a cesspool. And to get each photo, I would have to like dive under into like the dirty water and grab a memory and bring it up, and I was just crying out loud. And I remember Paola came up, he goes, what's the matter? And I said, I was crying. I said, I'm looking for Nicolas in Falcon colors. And then she said the same thing. She goes, Falcon colors. And she started crying with me. And a falcon came and landed on our fence, like about, I'd say no more than 10 yards from where we were. And he just looked at us and just sat there looking at us. And we stopped crying. And he was just there for a couple of minutes, just looking at us.
And just to put that in context, did that ever happen to you before? Did you ever see?
No, never. Never. No.
What was going through your mind when that was happening? Were you convinced straight away?
Peace.
Okay.
It was just peace and calm. I wasn't thinking about anything. It's almost like we were connecting with the bird, was just looking at us, and we were looking at it, and it seemed like time froze, and we were just there. And then he went away, and then we didn't even say, we didn't think twice. We're still like so overwhelmed that it helped calm us down for a little while, but that was, very short.
It's not just the fact that it's a bird, it's the fact that it's a falcon. It's like,
yes,
so unusual. It's, it's not like a sparrow or a crow.
No, well, we have them, where we live, the fact that the team is called the Torrey Pines Falcons, but it is rare that one would come. I had never seen one.
And the synchronicities, like
at the same time that we were saying Falcon colors.
Falcon.
Yes.
And this is like the beginning, and then the second one that we had that was just mind blowing was in the middle of the grief and just trying to understand, trying to make sense of everything. We had our friend Beverly, and she's experienced, she's, very spiritual, and she does psychology work and therapy work. And she was there almost every day with us. We were, like I said, surrounded with friends and love. And Paola was laying in one couch with her, sitting down, and I had another couch, and I was laying there listening what they were talking about. And she was trying to tell Paola that Nicolas was in the light. And she kept on saying, Nicolas is in the light. And then Paola, I could see Paola, it was like a different Paola. She was like very angry. I mean, just so angry that she'd leave once a day into the garage, and with a tennis racket, she'd hit this punching bag that we had as hard. And she's like the sweetest person. She had a lot of that. But I could feel her getting more and more angry. I was thinking, my God, this is not going to go well. She's going to explode. Because she kept on saying, well, what do you mean on the light? What is he? Is he like a light bulb? What is it?
I didn't know all this, spiritual terminology that, was just the beginning of my spiritual awakening evolution. And so for me, I wanted to have Nicolas here physically.
Yeah, she didn't want Nicolas to be in the light. She wanted him to be here.
Nicolas is in the
commentary was angering you and making you even more frustrated, because it's like,
very angry.
was just like a
Very, very angry.
find my son as a piece of light. He's my son. I get you.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and as she's saying this, and I could see this happening, I could kind of like see, just like I could see our whole life being a train wreck. I could see what was going to happen, how this is going to get out of control. And I just kind of drifted off, and I started glaring at this photograph that I had of Nicolas, that his friends.
Big picture on the window.
Yeah, we blew up, his friends actually blew up a photograph of him, probably like about, let's say, 1 meter high, about half a meter. And we did a paddle out for him at the beach.
Beautiful.
And we had the photograph by the window. And I was just looking at the photo, just like those kind of like drifted away from their conversation and just kind of looking at that photograph, thinking, how much I love you. And I was looking at this photograph, and it was, I guess, overexposed, because I took it of him kite surfing at the beach when he was getting out of the water. But the sun was behind him, and the sun was so bright that you could barely see his face smiling. And I said, wow, what a bummer. I said, this is the only photograph that I have of Nicolas, recent photograph of him smiling. Because, when they're that age, they want to do like the little duck face or whatever they do. They do those. They don't smile that much. So basically, I was like thinking about that. I go, man, too bad I just can't see his face. I wish I could see it, because it's such a good photograph. And at that same moment, Paula's going off, on the light. What do you mean on the light? And then the lady just almost yelled at her, goes, he's in the light. And at that moment, we had these 2 skylights in our house, in the living room. And it was a cloudy day, and a beam of light shined through the skylight into the photograph, illuminating his face so bright. And the beam of the light is so intensely white that the horizon, before the horizon was very sharp, you can't see the horizon. The horizon is whited out. The only thing you really see is Nicolas's face and his body with a big smile. And then our friend said, quick, grab a camera. And I grabbed it and I took a photograph of it. And we still have that. And we cherish that. But
I think I took it like a sign, like to say, I started really, because you have this sign, and then you think about, and I was journaling everything that was happening. And so
did that stop you in your tracks?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean he's in the light? Did you just
it totally calmed, and for me it was a message from Nicolas telling me, Mom, I'm still me, I'm still Nicolas, your son, and I'm in the light, I'm in a beautiful place.
I'm not a light bulb. I'm not a light bulb.
You just have to calm down. It's like Nicolas, he was just like I said, he was just working so hard to communicate it with us in every angle, in every.
Yet it wasn't enough for us still.
See this repetitiveness of the open comes.
To try to grasp it. Yeah.
I guess in a way that it was when we needed it, but it wasn't enough. Still, it would work for like a couple hours a day, and then slowly we'd get back into our whole thing. I had this hate in terrible. I wanted to go and volunteer, and help fight, against the ISIS. And I really just wanted to go. I wanted to see destruction, because I felt like everything was destructive. I kind of wanted to open up the door, and I wanted to see rubble everywhere, because that's how I felt. And I felt that would make things right in a way, because like, how could it be that the world's still moving so nicely, yet we're upside down? It didn't make any sense. So, I mean, it worked to calm us down a little bit, but we still had our episodes. Like for me, one of the things that was really bothering me when we got back was a photograph that his friends from the European Innovative Academy made of him. They blew up the photograph, and they had candles, and they did a memorial for him there. And we brought it back. And it was like a large photograph, and we had it in the living room. But every time I would look at that photograph, I would cry, because it was like so strange. It was like alien, because I have thousands of photographs, and they're all taken by me, and I know the background story. So this is when we were here in Aruba. Here's when we were here in this place. We were doing this. After that, we ate ice cream. We went diving. We caught a big fish. That whole story. In this photograph, I would see him. He had, he looked great. large, bigger than life almost, because he had grown even the last year in college. But it had nothing, and I needed more. And I said, Paola, we can't have this photograph. It just makes me too sad. We have to take it off. And we would argue about it. No, we got to have it here. And I was like, no, Paola, it hurts me. If you love me, you got to take it off. We can't have this photograph. And it went on for several days. And then one day I just peaked. I said, Paola, that photograph has got to go out. That painting, I can't handle it. It just hurts me too much. I need more. I need more of the story. And at that moment, Carly, I know that, you're, skeptic and stuff. But at that moment, the door rang. And by the time I went up to open the door, nobody was there. I assume it was the postman. And there was a brown package. And I opened up this package. And there was a photo album that was created by his friends from France that sent it to me. And the main photo of the photo album was that photograph that I said I don't want, that I needed more. And then inside was all the backstory. This is what we did. We went to the beach. Nicolas was celebrating the one of the Milan team because he was a foot soccer fan. Then we went here and all the whole story. Telling you, I get chicken skin almost, because
Me too.
it's just amazing,
Yeah.
French for me put it together, and it was at the right time that it happened. I'm like, how could that be? And like I said, I was always this, I'm an engineer, and I work on reality and stuff. I never believed in anything, like strange. That wasn't something I could see, feel, and touch. But things like this started happening, and I started thinking, wow, maybe something's going on here.
So did that trigger something? Did that trigger something in you, do you think, to then sort of try and look for more signs and try and find out how this was possible, how it was happening?
Yes, it did. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that really caused a lot of grief with me. Because the skill sets that made me successful as a businessman, I was a vice president of one of the largest engineering companies in the United States, and then I had my own company, was that I would never take no for an answer. I was always solutions. My mentors always taught me, Conrad, when you do a report, I want to hear like this much on the problem and this much on the solution. What are you going to do about it? You're the manager. What are you going to do about it? I don't care. It's not a recession thing. So I needed to find out. And I just went deeper and deeper trying to find out. Paola took more of like a spiritual approach.
Yeah, for me, I just, I dove in studying spirituality. I started to read any kind of book that was available about the afterlife, spirituality. I joined a group at Parents Hill that we talk about science, our kids, they give it to us. So I really went, and I still do it right now. I keep learning and learning about spirituality, because I felt that that Nicolas was somewhere. I was really trying to research
where Nicolas is
and studying about this new dimension. So, and that brought me in my journey, helped me to.
And for me, it's like, I just got, I did some research, and I looked up something that really resonated with me, which was like about Emanuel Swedenborg. And he was like an engineer also, and he had a perfect life, I think back in the 1400s or something in Sweden. And all of a sudden he started having visions of the afterworld, and he described what things would be like and how, what happens when you die and how heaven's really open for everybody. Almost like, I'm surprised he didn't get, and thrown in jail for saying these things. They were very advanced. But, and soon after that, I just got into physics, started learning about, quantum mechanics. Because I found some of Nicolas's notes in this, that he was talking about, time and quantum mechanics and particle entanglement, how two particles could be entangled, or they could live in a superposition, which means like more than one state at once, and how time is really flexible, how Einstein proved that in the special theory of relativity and the general theory of relativity, how gravity has an effect on time and motion has an effect on time. And that what I think is happening now may not coincide with somebody else's, what they think what's happening now, depending where they're located and how fast they're moving. And so I just got to the point where I actually had to give up, because I realized that I was never really going to find out exactly, and I just did something which was the hardest thing I had ever done, which was to surrender. Which I was like, do not ever. I remember my boss one time told me, he said, you cannot roll over like a puppy dog and accept it. You have to make it happen, find a way. And I had to come to the realization that I had to accept that I would not know and that I may never know. And I was just happy enough knowing that something's going on. This thing has something, there's intelligence involved because, the timing and the coordination, and there's compassion and love because they see us like such sorry folks, and we were like really hurting, and somebody thought they were probably feeling bad about us. And I like to believe that it was Nicolas, and I call it gifts from Nick. I'm open that it could be my higher self, God. I just don't know. I call it gifts from Nick because that's what I believe, but I don't have any evidence. But having to surrender to that was, mind blowing for me.
I find what you're saying profound, though, Conrado, because the journey of spirit, the journey of truth, is about surrender. So the fact that you actually drew that from your own conclusion as well as part of the journey is quite profound to me. So beautiful. So life really starts to kind of trigger and all these amazing things start happening. Then you really go on the search for truth and start to interlink with how you start to come back together, don't you? You've kind of gone on your individual journeys. Paola's gone on the spiritual journey. You've gone on your scientific quest for truth and knowledge. And then you kind of come back together again and start to sort of have really profound experiences, of which, I've been able to witness a few of them. So kind of tell me what happens next, because you did a few things before we met.
I think that the important thing is that we were able to heal, not from the pain of the loss, but from the hate. We were like just so angry, and there was just so much anger and hate. How could this person treat my son like a piece, and so many other people? I think it was like 85 people that he killed, How could he do that? What was he thinking about that? And then another miracle happened. As I was cleaning out Nick's desk, I read this biography that he was writing about himself. And it had a section that said that having traveled with my parents, throughout the world, because like we would spend the winters in the Caribbean, all the islands, and summers in Europe, and the springtime skiing in the different places. And he said, having grown up with my parents and seeing the world, I've come to the realization not to judge other people quickly, because you'll never know what motivates people to do the things they do. And that just resonated with me. And top of that, that's something that Emanuel Swedenborg was discussed, or I did an interview with Curtis Child, and he told us about it. He had a program called Off the Left Eye, and he talks about Emanuel Swedenborg. And he basically says how Swedenborg wrote about your motivations that really makes you, where are you going to go in your afterlife? Were you motivated by your ego? Did you do things because your ego, or did you do things out of love? And then so I started thinking about this guy who did this, and I don't have like the growth or the spiritual depth to forgive him, for what he did, but at least I stopped hating him and I stopped thinking about him. I felt that I had so much love, and all we had was like love for Nicolas, and somehow we were converting that love part of it to hate, because we were thinking about both. Every time I think of Nick, I think of the other guy, and then finally I just came to the realization, wait a minute, why am I even thinking of this dude? Why am I exchanging love for hate? It's like currency, and giving it to this guy. And as an engineer, I kind of thought of the analogy of like irrigating a field. I'm like the source of the water that's coming in through me, and I'm giving it to Nicolas through love. And then somehow I'm diverting that flow, and some of that flow is going to irrigate this guy's, garden. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm cutting you off of water. It's all love, all for Nicolas. And I think that, and just the overwhelming, synchronicities brought us back together.
Nicolas, it was guiding us. It was
I mean, he physically told us to stay together. And that's like something that happened to us, after we moved to Hawaii.
Yeah, that we have like a synchronicity that
we were lost, we were still, even though we had all these messages, we were still frozen. Like I said, I couldn't work. We still had a mortgage in our house. Things were looking kind of grim, and
you lost your whole identity, your whole way of life.
Absolutely. And our means to live, our income. And we were a single income family. And all of a sudden I wasn't working, and, we started going through our savings and stuff. And like I said, and I couldn't, and there's nothing I could do. I mean, there's nothing I could do. Seeing it happen. And then all of a sudden, Nicolas started coming to me in these dreams, dressed in Polynesian outfit.
And then also you have to start this sign with what he told you before.
Oh, this is really important.
He left.
Before he left to France, I said to him, Nick, we worked everything for him. Our whole goal, our whole strategy was Team Nick. And our whole strategy was to, build wealth and build assets so we could turn it over to him. And then he would never have to worry, like I had to worry about retirement and all these things. So he could go and reach for the stars, So then I was so proud of him. He made it at Berkeley. He had like a 4.0 GPA at Berkeley. He was in the top fraternity in a great consulting group. Life was beautiful. And I said, Nick, I'm so proud to you. I just want to let you know that you don't have to stress out in life, because this house, our beautiful house, is a really nice house in Del Mar. It's going to be yours. I want to give it to you.
And you told him 1 week before he left.
1 week before. And I was waiting for him to say, really, Dad? That's what I would have probably said if I said that, and give me a hug. Because, it was kind of awkward to get a hug because he was so much. I'm 6'1", but I felt like he towered over me, And instead, he just looked at me with this wise smile, and he goes, Dad, you don't have to worry about me anymore, which is like kind of weird. He goes, I'm fine. I'm at Berkeley. My life's good. Everything's beautiful. You and Mom should sell the house and move to Hawaii. That's what he told me. Instead of saying, thank you, I want the house, So that happened. And then after that, I didn't even realize I had these dreams of Nicolas wearing Polynesian stuff. And the dreams, I would go and he'd be smiling. He wouldn't say anything, just smile. And I'd go and I'd grab him. And when I would grab him, he'd disappear from my hands and he'd pop somewhere else. And he was just dancing. And I was getting angry. I was getting frustrated, and I was like, why are you doing this? And I was kind of getting angry at him. And then I woke up. And then, life went on and we're still messed up. And then all of a sudden we had an investment property in Hawaii that we never lived. We bought like 20 years ago. And we thought I could afford to keep it empty. It's like a second house that didn't work out. So we rented it out, and it was rented for 20 years, not to the same person, but 5 years here, 5 years there. And the last tenant only lived for 6 months. And he called me up and he said, Conrad, I'll let you know that I'll be moving out. I'm not going to renew the lease. And he gave me like 6 months notice, which is really rare. Most people give you like 30 days or something. And I was so shocked that, I said, look, you know what? I told him what happened. I said, I really don't care. I'm not going to rent it. The bank could take the house because we still had a mortgage on that too. And I said, I'm not in a state to go there to fix up the house and re-rent it again. If you could help me out, I told him, just put an ad and maybe you could rent it for us. And he goes, don't worry, we'll do all the, we'll take care of it and everything. They were very supportive. And then all of a sudden he just clicked on me. I said, oh my God, Nicolas said before he left to France that we should go to Hawaii, that we should go move to Hawaii. Then I saw him in my dreams. And then all of a sudden my place is empty. So then I said, oh my God, it's a sign for us to go. So I convinced Paola. She didn't want to leave. It was only like 7 months. We're still fresh. We're still in shock, not making, even our counselors from the government, the FBI said, Conrad, do not make any decisions for at least 1 year because you're not thinking straight. I basically shut down my business by telling my clients that I was damaged goods. I didn't have any more money. And I said, you know what? We lived in a really big house. And I said, maybe we'll rent it. And then we'll move to the condo in Hawaii. So we hired a realtor and we put it for rent. And not once did we let the realtor come in. Because when he'd knock in with a potential renter, we wouldn't open the door because Paula's crying in one couch. I'm crying in the other couch. The last thing we wanted to have is like looky-loos going through our house, opening up drawers and doors and stuff and us crying. So finally, I think after like about a month, of him trying, I called him up. I said, look, I'm sorry. I wasted your time. He goes, it's just not going to work out. We can't have people in our house. And he goes, don't worry. I understand. And then just when I thought it was over, our next door neighbor came in and we started talking, and he said that he was going to move out because he needed a bigger house. And I said, well, I thought you guys bought it. And he goes, no, we're just renting it. I go, well, my house is for rent. And it's, and he goes, I'll take it. Just like that. He goes, he didn't ask the money or anything. He goes, I only have one condition. We already gave our notice, so we need to move in by May 1st. I go, wow, May 1st is when my tenant moves out. So he moved from one side of the house to the other. And, really good family, for the President Obama, he was in the cabinet with him, really smart guy and stuff. And they took the house, and basically, we packed it up, which was very painful. And then we moved here. Then it turned beautiful, actually. I really think that the Aloha spirit really helped us, and it made us closer together. This is a very small place where we live. So we're constantly close. We only have one car, and we're out in nature a lot. And then we started having some even more amazing stories. Two of them with Kat.
Yeah.
But I think the first one, we were still kind of devastated. Even when they were here, because we used to come here with Nick and we used to have so much fun. And I just remember how odd it was to be here at the same place where people come to have fun when you're not having fun. So it just felt like, how weird is this? This is like, we're in the same spot. How come I'm not having the same fun? You see people like laughing, playing with their frisbees, splashing in the water. And you're sitting in a chair at the beach, kind of like with tears in your eyes. So we were kind of like bummed out, just depressed.
And then I had a beautiful dream after almost 2 years that we were here, and I was still very depressed. Yeah. And then one of my passion was traveling, and go to see different places in the world. And I had this, and I didn't want to go anywhere else. And I had this dream visitation of Nicolas one night. They came to me. And I see him coming out from this group of young adults, and all beautiful and smiling. And so I ran, towards him, and I hugged him, and I said, Nicolas, I want to go where you are. And he looked at me, and he put his forehead touching my forehead, and he looked at me with his eyes full of love, and it's kind of serious, giving me like a mom. He said, Mom, you can't. You still have to live your life and enjoy your adventures. So I woke up and I told Conrado right away.
Well, as soon as she told me, by weird chance, I was in the computer and I clicked, and there was an ad saying tickets to New Zealand for like $700 round trip from Hawaii. And I immediately clicked them. We had no hotels, no plans. We just did it. And we flew out to New Zealand because I knew that maybe that was what we really needed to go. Plus, I knew that it was such a good breakthrough for us as a couple, because we were still arguing and fighting, and I knew how much that would bring joy to Paola, because that's what she used to love to do. We used to travel a lot. So once we went to New Zealand, it was kind of stressful too, because we didn't have any reservations and stuff, but we made it. Within a couple of nights, I had a dream of Nicolas. And this was really strange. And remember how you were asking me how we got together? I was in this like a penthouse, beautiful penthouse with gigantic front windows overlooking the ocean. And I was looking at the surf, and I was by myself. And then all of a sudden, I just kept on looking at these waves. And I said to myself, wait a minute, something's weird. These waves are too perfect. This can't be real. I said, I must be dreaming. And as soon as I said that, the door opened and Nicolas was there with a smile on his face. And I just I don't think I walked. I kind of like glided to him, like floated to him and grabbed him. And I held him, and I hugged him, and I held him, and I felt him so close to me. And I said, you know what? Nobody is going to peel my fingers out. I'm staying here. And deep inside, I knew that I was somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be. I knew that it was like another realm, another place. I know that. And I knew that Paola was not there. She was waiting for me somewhere else, in reality. But I said, I don't care. I'm staying here. Nobody's going to do this for me. And I was there holding him tight, and he slipped through my hands again. like nothing. And he smiled. I said, Nick, don't go. Tell me something. And he looked, and without moving his mouth, it was like telepathically, he goes, move forward, stay with mom, and find joy in life. And he left. And then I woke up and I told Paola, it was like 2:00 in the morning. So I told Paola about it, and we're like, wow, that was intense. And we wrote it down. So then the next day we continued our road trip. And we went to this place called the Blue River, which is like this glacier where they melt and they have these beautiful blue water that's running down from these streams and full of these bedrock, riverbeds are just full of these stones. And it looked such a beautiful, beautiful place. And I remember thinking about what Nicolas would do. I could see him there, but there were some young kids swimming and the water was really cold. And we're just looking at it. It was so beautiful that it was sad. And it was sad because we couldn't share it with him. Because, we used to travel together, and it's like, it's kind of sad to see something beautiful that you cannot share with someone that you love. And Paola was crying. And then somehow he's got enough strength to say, Paola, you can't cry. If we believe everything, so far we believed it. So far we've done it. We moved to Hawaii because of Nick, left our whole life behind us and stuff. 20 years we lived there. And here we are. And we have to be true. He said, find joy in life. And Paola goes, yeah, you're right. We have to find joy in life. And she looked down at her feet, and the sun glimmered in a rock. And that rock is a flat river rock. There's millions of them because the whole bank was just full of these rocks. And this one had a J made out of a crystalline formation. I do some geology work as an environmental engineer. And there were some crystals growing in this rock on the form of a J with a circle. Yeah. I don't know if you could see it good. This is our most precious possession that we have. We call it the Rock of Joy. And you could see the circle around it and the J. And it was right between our feet at the same moment that we said we need to find joy. Wow. That just kind of proved it. At that point, it just sealed the deal for me, at least, not to go any deeper into, what it meant, but it meant that we were being guided, that we were being helped, and that our mission was to stay together and always move forward and try to find joy, which we try to really practice, try to find joy. And then, life went on. And then the most beautiful thing happened with Kat. Because Paola, for her birthday, she wanted to have a reading. And I think, yeah. And then she did the first one I think that was the first one that she did with Kat. And it was very strange. I was there because I was always kind of like a skeptic, and all of a sudden she started talking. She says, well, Nick is showing me, President Barack Obama. Does that mean anything to you? And I said, well, yeah. I said, something that nobody knows. But when it happened, he called us, President Barack called us, Obama. And I'll never forget, he said, I'm calling you as a father, and I have daughters and they're in college. Well, they're going to be going traveling abroad. So I have, when I heard this thing, it just touched me, and I'm just grieving to you as a father. It was like surreal. It was like a man grieving with me, not the president of the United States, just like if he was my best friend. No fanfare. He didn't publicize it. He didn't do anything. It was like just like picked up the phone. And obviously somebody else called first to make sure we're home. So then I said, yeah. So he called us up and it was very emotional. And she goes, no, not something more. And I'm like, man, that's pretty major. What more do you want? And I kept on digging. And then Paola goes, oh, yeah. Well, Nicolas, when he was in high school on the speech and debate team, he volunteered and they went to Las Vegas from San Diego to volunteer in his campaign. And they went knocking door to door to get votes for President Obama. And I told her, and Kat goes again, no, something more, something bigger. Like you're going to meet him or something. And I'm like, I mean, most people, because we had other meetings, if all of a sudden I would have said, yeah, well, President Obama called us, they would have probably said, okay, that's it. That's what it meant. Done deal. Let's move to the next. But no, she kept on insisting that something bigger. And I kept on thinking, bigger? What does this lady want? And then all of a sudden, so at the end of the meeting, we had it was a really good meeting. And we went for a walk. So when I come back to the house, I look at my phone and there were like 5 messages. And the messages were from one of Nick's best friends. He went to grammar school, high school. and they went both to Berkeley.
I remember him saying in this reading, no, I don't just want my parents to talk to Obama. I want them to meet him face to face. I'm kind of skeptical myself, going, look, your kid's amazing and everything. The chances of meeting face to face the former president of the USA, it's quite a big ask. I remember feeling, from a human perspective, I'm like, these people have been through so much in their life. I don't want to give false hope or false information. I said, but he's adamant. He's absolutely adamant. So I have to give you what he's giving me. Even I don't know if I believe what he's giving me. It was just too crazy. Now go away with what actually happens next. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was just surprised that he didn't give up at first. As soon as I said, yeah, it means something. Obama connection is like he spoke with us. But anyway, after all these things, and she kept on pushing, I kept on saying another example with President Obama, how he was in our life, and which I didn't even know the people who rented our house. Also, he worked for the cabinet of President Obama. Anyway, we take a walk. We come home, and Nicholas's best friend that he went to school with, they were in the same fraternity at Berkeley. He, very smart guy. He did an internship with a congressman, and he was in a fundraiser. And President Obama showed up, and he had his FaceTime book, and he goes, "I want you to meet him." So he kept on calling and calling. There was 5 missed calls, and when we got home, I called him up, and he goes, "Conrad, President Obama was here, and we wanted to FaceTime with him so he could meet and tell him about the story and everything." Just blew me away with Kat. And then there was even one more that even also was like amazing. And this was still in Hawaii. We're smelling, and we're getting less and less signs ourselves. Like before we used to get these, everything was to us, And then this one was for Paola's birthday, and she was still kind of blue, on her birthday. And I said, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, she wanted to eat sushi. So I went to her favorite place in the North Shore. And it was a cute little sushi place about an hour from our house. And we went in there, and there was a young lady who attended us, and we ordered our food. And I said, "We're celebrating my wife's birthday." And she goes, "Great. Well, in that case, we could give you a free dessert. Our dessert for the day is," no, she goes, "I'll give you a free dessert." And I said, no, actually, we don't want it because we already have a plan. We're going to have sushi. And then across the street, they have a gelato place, an Italian gelato. And Paola wants to have an ice cream, and that's what we're going to have. And she goes, "Okay." So anyway, she gives us our food. Everything's fine, and we're done eating. She goes, "Are you sure I cannot tempt you in this dessert? It's really good. The chef just made it, and he specializes on creme brulee." And I go, "Oh my God, creme brulee is Nicholas's favorite dessert." And he not only is his favorite dessert, but he used to make it at home. He had his torch and everything. And I asked her, I go, "Is this like a real creme brulee? Is it like the kind where you snap it with a spoon and the sugar will crack? Or is it just like soft at the top?" He goes, "No. He makes it like a piece of glass." And I go, "Oh my God, that's how Nick does it." And I go, "Paola, we got to have this." So we're there, and there wasn't that many people that day in the restaurant either. No. It was like pretty empty. And we're there, and she goes, "Okay." And I go, "You know what? You got us on the creme brulee, please." So she goes, and she goes to the kitchen. She comes back, and we're sitting at a pretty big table, at least a big table for 4, but it's only 2 of us. And she sets 3 plates and 3 spoons. And it didn't even click me. We're talking stuff. And then I said, "So Paola, what is it, what do you want for your birthday?" And he goes, "I only want Nicholas to be here. I wish that Nicholas was here." And I said, I said, "He's always with us, Paola." I go, he's always with us. So then all of a sudden she brings the creme brulee. And then I go, "Wow, there's 3 spoons. That's so weird. There's only 2 of us." And then I go to her, and she comes, and I said, "Excuse me, miss, you set 3 plates and 3 spoons, yet there's only 2 of us." And she was kind of young, so she kind of gave me the side eye like, "Gee, what a jerk. I'm giving you free dessert, and now you're going to criticize that I made a mistake on the table. You don't have to make a big deal. Just use the napkin next, And I said, I could tell that she was kind of like, not offended, but kind of like defensive. And I said, no, you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, I told her we were hoping because, what happened to our son. She started crying, on the table with us. And I said, but you just validated it for us that 3 spoons is like his favorite dessert, and that means that he's right here with us. And she goes, I really don't know what happened. I mean, I could have sworn there was 3 people in the table. So anyway, we're all happy about it, and then for Paula's birthday, she got a reading from Kat. And then I think you tell the story.
There is, as soon as we opened the reading, Kat opened the reading, and she just, she said, I see Nicolas playing with 3 spoons.
He's showing me 3 spoons. And I said, oh my God, that's just too weird.
She said, 3 spoons. I was like, and then that was the verification, that she basically had with the reading, validated that Nicolas, he was there with us on my birthday, spiritually. So, it's just like you can, it's amazing.
Yeah. At this point, I think what we believe is like, like I said, I don't know where these signs come from. Like I said, I call them gifts from Nick because I believe it's Nicholas, but all I know is that they're there, they're magical, they're validated, mostly with 2 people, and some occasions with 3, like with Kat coming up with these things. So it just makes me think that there's like a greater reality, something that's just not like what I used to think, that we're in a rock, that we go around the sun and, oh, well, you got 100 turns, whoopee-doo. If there's really no meaning, no deeper thing in life, there's really no meaning in going around, because it doesn't really matter if you got 20 turns or 100 turns. It's just, it's absurd, So it really made me believe that there is something, and it really helped us really practice the gratitude. And I think that took us to the next level of growth. Instead of, thinking how we miss Nicolas, or the things that I miss about Nicolas, or, or what that guy took away from us, because we think about, how cool he'd be 29 now, maybe we'd be grandparents, and that's 28, so we'd always think about that. I just think how lucky we were to spend 28 years with him, and this connection that we have for him to somehow be able to connect and tell us to move forward, stay together, find joy in life. And now we live like a different life. I think we're at peace. We found, peace through, volunteering. We're very active in our community. We volunteer for people with physical and cognitive disabilities. I'm a surf instructor, and Paula takes care of all the equipment for them. We were both swim coaches for people with disabilities. And now we joined a new group, Aloha Blind, where we take people that are visually impaired and, go sightseeing. They go to the botanical garden, and we, show them the tree, feel the tree, the bark, and describe how beautiful it is, describe the colors. Green, what is green? The color of life, photosynthesis. What is red? Red's like a dangerous color, exciting color. Lipstick, red lipstick, the red lights, So we found peace through that, and our strength to move forward also from working with people that Nicolas always found special, and they're real special, the people that get up every day and they have to live with a challenge that we felt that we had to, but they live through a different kind of challenge, and they don't give up. And when I think that we're having a bad day, I say, well, look, these guys don't complain. They're athletes. One of the guys that we teach to surf, he says, Conrad, just carry the surfboard to the water, and he just rolls to the shore. Talk about that strength, not to give up. So I don't know what else. It's definitely a journey.
Yeah, I just interject one thing. There's some teachings that I kind of wanted to put forward of Nicolas's, and one is that love always finds a way, and he always kind of says that's kind of the truth of it. But these extraordinary things that happen, I remember your first reading, prior to even meeting you, prior to knowing your story, who Nicolas was. I remember being up at the village where I live. We always call them villages in London. It's so funny, but they're not really villages. They're just areas of London. With my daughter, and she was maybe about 5 at the time that I met you. She's 11 now, bless her. But she was acting really weird. And there was a funny energy around her, and she moved across the road and she said, Mummy, remember that time you had to swerve out of the way of a vehicle and like move across the road? I was like, Ava, you've never had to like move across the road. And I've never let you walk across a road before. And then suddenly she just changed energy and she went, I want a banana and chocolate crepe. And that cafe over there sells them. And I was like, Ava, what's a crepe? Because we call them pancakes. And I knew she didn't know what a crepe was. And I said, Ava, look at me. And I got down on my knees. I looked her right in the eye. I said, tell Mum, what is a crepe? And she couldn't answer me. And I said, how do you know that cafe over there sells chocolate and banana crepes? Because we've never been in that cafe together for that purpose. And she looked at me and she went, I just know that they do, and I want one now. So I started to laugh, and I was like, well, they'll be really expensive in that cafe. Are you sure you want a banana? I said, I'll go get you one if you want one, but you have to eat it all, as a parent does. You have to eat it all if we're going to go get one. Anyway, somehow a little lie spatted at me a little bit too sweetly, and I went.
No, I used to bribe Nicolas. I used to bribe Nicolas to go skiing when he was like really little, because I'd say they had a place where they'd sell chocolate and banana crepes. And I'd say, Nick, if we go skiing, we'll buy you a crepe. And he's like, he just went nuts over it.
It's really funny about that, Conrad.
He loves the
mad on skiing now. So I went and took her to that cafe, and I remember just thinking, this is too weird. There was a funny energy, and I call it the angelic energy, because it just seemed really strange. And I remember meeting you and saying, can I ask you something before I read for you? Can I ask you, does your son really like chocolate and banana crepe? Because my daughter doesn't know what one is, but she was adamant today she had to have one. And that was the ha-ha moment for me when you said yes. And I was like,
yes.
And I was like, he's moved my daughter. Exactly. He's moved and influenced my daughter, who is not a medium. She has no awareness that spirit, to this day, she still has no awareness that happened. And yet he was so profoundly, it was almost like it was so profoundly an important reading that he was adamant he was going to influence it and set it up before we even met, so that I had something that would cause the rapport or the connection to create the incredible connection. I mean, he's taught me so many things, but I mean, I the Obama story was amazing, but there's like so many moments, like the moment when he talked about there was a problem with the humpback whales off the coast migration route. The humpback whales cat is affected off the coast of Hawaii. And I remember saying, oh my God, can somebody Google it? This kid's not going to stop until you actually Google it. And I remember thinking there can't be a problem with the humpback whale migration route. And then we look it up and there was. And you think, and then I didn't know at that point that he was a marine biologist or a diver. So it didn't make, and I remember saying to you, like, why is he talking about the water and the sea? You know, why is he wanting to talk about the sea life? You know, he's constantly talking about the sea, and that's when you explain.
I mean, that's all we love, the ocean. Yeah,
love the ocean, love.
Yeah. So, Carly, you're sat here listening to these stories. What do you think? I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. I mean, I really love the dynamic between the two of you and how you approached it so differently with science and spiritual. I think that's absolutely incredible. And what you've said, Conrad, about sort of surrendering almost, I think there's going to be a lot of people that resonate with that when you're thinking, I don't know what this is, but I'm accepting that it's happening and I'm taking joy from it.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, I'm absolutely blown away. I really am. It's incredible story, incredible signs, definitely.
Yeah, and I think you're quite an inspirational couple, because I think to go from that dark place of the soul and to follow intuitively the messages, even when you are skeptically or kind of open-mindedly questioning it, to get to the place that you've got to now where you do live a very meaningful life with purpose, You're a very loving couple. Every time I've ever met you, I've had nothing but love and joy. And I know that sometimes I'll read for Paolo now free of charge, because I just love spending time with you and love spending time with Nicolas, because he inspires us all. You know, there's one more thing that I have to mention, because it's part of the synchronicity of this podcast show and how it came about with Nicolas. But there was two things that Nicolas influenced that was connected. And one was, when I went to do the logo, Carly asked me to design a logo to go with this podcast show. And I initially tried to take the scarf theme that Irene had given me, because she said that she had felt inspired to buy scarves in Carly's memory, and because I had the connection to being a scarf buyer at one stage, I tried playing around with this idea of scarves, and she showed me one knotted. So I thought, oh, it'd be nice to knot a scarf with a heart in it and tie the heart in, because we're talking about connections of the heart that connect not just the living but the spirit. And it didn't work out. For whatever reason, the scarf looked a bit clumsy. So we ended up doing it. And of course, you know, I didn't think at the time the heart, we're always putting heart stones and crystals in the water for Nicolas. We'll sort of share that. There's one story that I'll end on about Nicolas with the heart stone in a moment. We go around the world, Carly, and wherever we go on holiday, we take heart crystals like rose quartz. We put them in the water thinking that if somebody comes along and having a difficult day, maybe they'll find one of Nicolas's stones. Maybe they'll find something that will inspire their day in the way that the Paola and Conrado have been inspired. And it's just a beautiful little thing. And so I didn't think it about the time, but I thought, oh, it's got to have a heart in it. Put this heart in it, not thinking about the connection. And I tied it, and I just did it as a swirly line, almost like a tattoo. And I sent it to Irene. And when Irene receipted it, she went, oh my word, what's this? And I said, oh, that's the new logo for the podcast that I want you to come on, because your Carly's helped Nick inspire this podcast show that Carly and I were never going to do, you know. And so she went, I'm going to go get something. And she ran and got this note. And the note, I literally nearly fell off the chair. I've even put the heart over the note that she showed me. It is identical, the shape of the heart, everything. But when Carly used to, every time she did something, she'd leave a thank you note for her mum. And the last one that she'd always sign it with a heart. And the last one that she did was a heart with it crossing the way that I did in the logo. And I looked at this, and Irene said, how can, you know, Irene's had a lot of signs, but she was like, how can this be? And I said, it has to be Nicolas, because he did something for his mum's birthday. And I said, it was the first reading that I did with Paola for free. And I said to her, I'm going to do you a postcard this time. He wants to do a postcard. And he wants to design a postcard. And he's very adamant on what the design needs to look like. And so I drew out this postcard. And it had hearts on it. And it was very childlike, wasn't it, Paola? It was very childlike. I was questioning it, thinking, how can this be Nicolas, the perfectionist, who likes everything just so? Why would he make me do childish drawings, like heart shapes like this? And I kept saying, this can't be right, because he is such a perfectionist. He'd want it just so. So I remember being a bit nervous. I said, Paola, he's wanting me to do this postcard, but the postcards I normally do, they're very precise, but he was adamant this had to be the illustration for you, but it's very childlike. And I don't know, I feel a bit embarrassed, because I know he's a perfectionist, and I know this isn't the kind of drawing that he would do. And so I gave it to you, at which point you went, because unbeknown to me, Carly, Paola had been writing to Nicolas every year on his birthday. And she had, this year in particular, she had done a drawing, and the drawing matched the one on the postcard. And I said to Irene, you know how this logo has come into existence? Because it's Nicolas. He's got a big heart, and love will always find a way. And we put these stones everywhere around the world. And I know we've overrun massively, but it's such a big story, and it's so important that people hear this, because if you've lost a loved one and you're struggling today, I want you to know that the spirit world is so close. I don't think it's a dimension away. I think it's right here. It's right here in our hearts. It is the connection that connects all of us, but it's also very much, their love is still very much in our presence. I remember Nick inspired me to go on a trip to France, and I didn't know that Paola and Conrado were struggling to go back to the location of the terrorist attack, Carly. There was a memorial that was done on the promenade there. And about 6 months before this big trip to France that the Children of the Spirit World inspired me to go on, which I never actually told my husband. My husband to this day still thinks he's responsible for this trip. But 2 years prior, I had the map in my desk of where they wanted me to go. But 6 months prior to this trip happening, a friend of mine invited me to France, and at Nice airport, she arrived wearing this leather jacket. When she turned around, I went, oh, because it had a sign that I associate with one of my guides in spirit. But what happened next was really profound. She came to me and she said, I have just bought you something, and my friend doesn't normally buy me spiritual gifts. She said, I had to give you this. It's a rose quartz angel. And I have it on my desk, and I keep it very, very close to me. And it was a Nice airport. This is what is so interesting. It was at Nice airport that she gave me this angel. And I said, why have you bought me this? And she said, I don't know. I just knew that I had to give it to you today. And I said, turn around. What is that on the back of your leather jacket? And she went, do you like it? I said, I do, but it's very bizarre, like, for you. It's not your taste in clothing. And she said, I just felt I don't know, there was something different about it, Kat. And it was only 6 months later when I was going to France and we were discussing it, Paola, and you said, I haven't got the strength to go back to France because Nice owns a little bit of my son. He's now part of the history of that city. And I'd never really thought about it before. You know, we're talking about religions and faiths and stuff, and you think of Jerusalem and Jesus and all these kinds of things, and how when somebody dies a horrific death, part of that energy is left in that space. And so I wasn't intending to go to Nice, and I wasn't intending to go to Cannes on this trip because my husband had done work in Cannes and I'd done work in Nice in the fashion industry. And so I was looking to bypass associations with work. But when you had this conversation with me, I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to change my trip. I'll go to Nice for them. I'll go to this location and I'll take the photos of the memorial because you didn't have the strength to go. And actually I'm really glad I did. I changed the days and we managed to change the trip, and I managed to get 3 days in Nice, and they were really amazing days. And the first day I went down 5 or 6 in the morning to do a sound healing, which is where I go into trance and let the spirit world sing through me and bring out healing vibrations. I went down to the location where the incident was, and I sat on the beach there looking at the sea and the reflection of the sun, and I got a lovely little sign from Nicolas. And when I went back to the hotel, I noticed that there was a star, and I know that stars was something that he was sending you. There was a star on the desk, and it caught my eye, and I was like, oh, he's here, bless him. And I remember we went round Nice, and suddenly I took the photos of the posters, and I remember you being surprised, Paola, saying, well, what's this that you're sending me? I said, oh, it's the picture for the memorial. And you say, but Nicolas's name's on it. And it's this bit about ownership. We don't realise that, it's such a sensitive thing, isn't it? Somebody's name, and it's on this commercial poster all around. And of course, in France, they're wanting to memorialise and they're wanting to compensate this horrific event. And so they're doing it with love. They're not doing it out of cruelty, but to a parent who's lost a child who sees their name in such a commercial way on an image, it sort of has a different level to it. And so you were really shocked. And I was like, listen, I'm still going to go. I'm going to go to the garden today. And I just believe that if I'm meant to be there, Nicolas will send us a sign. And what was really amazing is I didn't know at the memorial site, Carly, that the actual sign, it says the angels on the actual memorial. There's underneath, it says the angels, and there's pictures of everybody that died at the event. The garden's beautiful, but what's really beautiful about it, more special than anything, is it's on the ocean, which Nicolas loved. And at the exact moment that I took the photos of his photo for his parents, this massive kite surf went up. And it was really profound because one of the things I'd done for Conrado is that Conrado had some kite surfs designed. And he'd asked me to ask Nicolas to ask which colours. He didn't show me any of the designs. He said, ask Nicolas which colour he wants, Kat. Which surf colour does he want? I said, I can't remember if it was grey. Was it grey, Conrado? He said he described he described the colours and the I can't remember the colours and the design that he wanted. And Conrad said, I've got it. One of these 6 designs matches what he's saying. I'll get this time. And I was like, yay. So the kite surf, Carly, it was a very close connection with Conrad. And so it was very, very profound. And this kite surf went up and it had a big emoji smile on it. It was like, and it's not unusual in these that there would be kite surfs, because there is an area there where it was the exact timing. It just literally went up and I couldn't do anything but look up at this huge smiling face on the side of this kite, the photo, the memorial with the kite surf in the background. And I was like, I can just imagine him there in the sky, kite surfing in the sky there on his surfboard. And that was kind of the image that we used when we did the presentation at Helping Parents Heal of the actual French trip, which, unbeknown to me, was going to get hijacked by all these kids to teach their parents signs and to sort of show the signs and synchronicities, I'm sure, which is part of why we're here today, because they want to heal and help the loved ones that are struggling. So that brings us to an end.
That's a fantastic story. Fantastic story to end on there, Kat, as well. I think absolutely phenomenal, really.
2 angel stories too for a niece.
Yeah,
I remember that was kind of really interesting. We were watching this show on, I guess Paolo was always concerned, how that Nicolas transitioned by himself, because there was so much chaos. They had to do triage and stuff. And then we watched this show with Emmanuel Swedenborg, and he described like your moment of transition. And they say there's always 2 angels that are accompanying you. And like they tell you, hey, something's happened, and they take you to your place. And then Paolo was saying, yeah, and I guess that gave her some comfort, that it happened. And then all of a sudden, she had to do a hip immediately after it happened. Paolo had to do a hip surgery, so and she was in the hospital. And I went home and I told her, I go, Paolo, don't worry, there was always 2 angels there. And she goes, yeah, but you don't know for real. And then, because I did an interview with I think it was, I forgot the name of the newspaper in France. And all of a sudden, this lady reached out to me. She said, you know what? I think I just want to reach out to you because my friends were there and they were by your son, the way you described him and stuff. And he said that it was a mother and her daughter that saw the car, and they lived across the street, and they walked and they asked the police if they could be there and put some candles and pray. And they say they were there for like the whole time till the daylight, praying with Nicolas, over his body. And I said, Paula, it really happened. There were 2 angels. There were 2 earthly angels. A mother and her daughter. And you figure that whole thing, a mother that's feeling the pain for another mother, and sharing that pain with her daughter, because she knew that kid belonged, somebody's, child. So I do believe that they were the personification of 2 angels of Nice. And then getting the email from this lady letting me know, so I could tell Paula that I had proof that there were 2 angels.
Wow.
That was like another.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 earth angels.
2 earth angels.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
But I'll tell you, there's been so many things. And I think if anything, I have to summarize, what it means for us. It means that I think that it taught us not to judge the whole by the little sliver that we get to experience. Because, in life, in our reality, we only get to see a little bit, and everything might even be a mental construct. Because, at the end of the day, everything that we really see is just electromagnetic light waves. And then our eyes convert that to electrical, signal. And then we make an image in the back of our head of what we think we are. Because colors really don't exist. It's really all different light vibrating at different frequencies. So at the end of the day, we get to see this little piece of reality, and it's really easy to judge. Maybe you didn't have a good thing, or maybe something bad happened or whatever. But I think at the end, the whole is perfect. And I do believe in I guess, divine providence, and like that there is a whole and that hole is perfect.
To kind of shift your perspective and awareness to that different center. That's lovely, Conrado. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to meet you.
Okay, well, now you know where we live, so
We'll be right over.
there you go.
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you.
Oh, no,
Thank you.